And I have the YouTube studio up so I can see if it's connecting.
Well done.
Because we've run into that before.
You did it right. It looked good.
Yeah. Doesn't seem to
Although,
be connecting on this side. Stream setup here.
well, don't go into it.
No, I'm not. Like I'm not. I'm just looking at the
It's up.
YouTube's. Oh, it is up?
Yeah.
Fantastic. And graphics. And bam. Hello, everybody. What's going on? Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Bandless, another podcast featuring Nick Hill. Long lost feature. And we have a fancy new face on the. What are we going to do here? Can we do this? Oh, look at that.
Oh.
Whoa. Look at it. If we do this, now we're all kind of facing each other.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa. We got a new face there. That there would be the Synth Chris. I like that you don't have a the in front of Synth Chris. Synth Chris. the Synth Chris. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well. How are you folks doing?
Spectacular.
Spectac. It's nice to have Nick Hill back as well. We missed you last week, Nick Hill.
I was high up in the sky.
Maha Club. Christening the Bandless podcast as a viewer from 30,000 feet.
Hold up. Maybe you're right, Bunn.
Well, we're not up.
It says for waiting.
Live. No secrets. Motherfucker. For some reason it's
So what do you do in this case? Share the link for the one that's going?
Yeah.
Well, this is stupid.
Oh my god. Why does it do this, Nick Hill?
Restream. Chris, don't get restream.
Don't get restream?
Don't get restream.
I wasn't planning on it, but now I won't.
Good.
Bandless. Mother. Oh, I'm so unbelievably angry. We checked this.
Why does it do that? Yeah. Okay, so
I'm just going to go into the chat here. Did you already do it? Duplicate.
Hold up.
Get
Oh,
stream again. And this stream, what is the?
I posted the link in there. I don't know if it'll work.
Oh yeah. Oh, I will. What is it? Sorry, guys. Da 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 da. What is this stream? God damn it. I'm so. It's okay. You know what, Scott? Just keep calm.
We'll fix it.
Yeah. And bam, video details. And bam, bam. And
Yes.
Yeah. Go live and manage upcoming. Bam. That's the right stream. Okay. And I'm just gonna go to. So you guys can hang out and chat. We got some. We got the full crew now, so that's good.
Sweet.
If you guys can kind of bring it in here, that would be great. And I'm gonna.
Of course, it won't let me put a link inside the other stream. So I have to tell everybody.
I did. I put a link in there. I can put another one in. Bam.
Well, it's not showing up.
It shows up for me. But hopefully
People will find their way.
they usually do. But
Yeah.
So upcoming.
Yo.
Howdy.
Howdy. Hi. Hello. Apologies,
how are ya?
Miles.
What's going on?
Apologies. Oh, we're just having problems with this software again.
Oh, you broke it?
Well,
You weren't
I don't
supposed to
know.
break the internet until I got here.
It everything was apparently to the letter, and well, in the end, it just wasn't.
Story
All right.
of my life.
Here we go. Here we go.
Okay.
People are coming in.
All right. All right. And what do we?
Yes.
Made for kids? No, this one's not made for kids. Save. Okay, we got all that in there. Great. And this one, cancel. And then this one, we're going to change it to private. So, apologies, everybody. Everyone who's joining us, we're having some cool cool stuff happen.
Listen, this is part of being a solo creator is rolling with the punches
Yeah. And we are going to make this
every
one,
week.
edit title and description, and we are going to make this other one private or whatever. So anyhow, if you guys want to introduce what's going on to some extent here, that would be fantastic.
Oh yeah, I lost in all the hullabaloo. I lost the doc. There it is. Hold up.
Unlisted.
Get rid of
Done.
this.
And live streaming. Public. Okay, great. It's up. It's running. It's live. This is our first 4-person stream, I think. Isn't it? Yeah.
First
Perhaps.
four-way.
I'm honored.
First 4-way.
I'm a little nervous, guys.
Yeah.
This is my first time as well.
Hope you brought a raincoat. I didn't say it. That wasn't me. I
And
didn't
some
say-
rubber-soled shoes.
Yeah. I'm
one
not
slip.
implying
Wow.
anything specifically.
Bun's the one with the innuendo-filled joke.
Like disgusting, absolutely disgusting. Hello, everybody, and we're gonna do this. We're gonna go like this because check that out, Miles. Now we're all sort of facing each other.
Woo.
You're
Okay.
kind of, I guess you're kind of centered, Miles. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for your patience, and welcome to Bandless Podcast 2001. Miles, it actually kind of worked out because it's just right when Miles was able to jump in, and now we're all together. And
Yeah, I literally tucked and rolled out of an Uber. I was like, I gotta go. So I'm here.
We're here. And today we got Synth Chris with us. That's him over there.
That's me.
Up. I don't know where to point in the camera. Hello, Synth Chris. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to
Thank
be
you for having me.
we're going to be kind of doing a little sound off. We're using you as our sounding board today, and you're going to be kind of our voice of reason, or our point of origin, if you will. I hope you don't mind.
I'll do it. I'll do it. You convinced me.
What we're going to do here first is, for those of you who are not familiar, who do not know Mr. Chris, Mr. Synth Chris, he is a music creator from the United States of America, US-based solo guy, and guitar player, producer, and he's just entering his junior year of college. Is that correct, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Computer science guy. You know, smart guy.
Smarty pants.
Smarty
Look
panties.
at this guy trying to get a job after college. Good for
Smarty
you.
panties. Yeah.
Wait a minute. So people pay for school and then finish it?
I know. It's crazy.
Not only that, but they like
Yeah.
go to school for a major that has jobs attached to them.
and money attached to those jobs.
Yeah, it's
So weird.
crazy.
So
Crazy,
weird.
man.
Smart guy. Smart guy. But
one told me.
Chris, you have released a whole bunch of digital releases in your what seems to be only 5 years of music. You're 20 years old. You kind of got going with this at 15-ish, somewhere around between 15 and 16 years old. And I think how we're going to kind of kick off the show is you talk a little bit more about kind of like what the starting looked like for you. The whole point of today's show is to kind of bridge the gaps between every potential generation. I hear from people my age, like how hard it is to start. And I'm sure to get into all this stuff, because there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of software, a lot of notes to learn, a lot of stuff to learn. Miles comes at it from a different angle because he's a music teacher, and there's all kinds of different personalities in his fold trying to get started. Some people commit, some people don't. And then Nick, you're in a different zone as well. You didn't really do the band thing. You kind of came to the production thing sort of like just totally on your own a little bit later, even though you were musing with music for a long time. So everyone's scenario is very different. And Chris, I'd like you to sort of kick it off and give us an idea of what it was like getting into all this stuff, if it was really overwhelming or if you just sort of eased into it and it snowballed. What did it look like?
I mean, yeah, it was a bit overwhelming, but I started 5 years ago. I was in high school. I had a bunch of music friends. They were in bands. They played guitar. They sung, whatever. And I wanted to make a band, even though I didn't have any experience. So made a band. Our drummer had an extra keyboard, so I'd play that, and then wrote an intro song, and then we broke up.
Sick.
Yeah, pretty sick. But it's not. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun, but I realized I didn't know enough or as much as I would like to. So I spent next year just figuring out, okay, this is how I download Reapers. This is how I make new tracks. This is just getting familiar with all that stuff. I found my brother's old guitar, so I started messing around with that because, hey, free guitar. And
wow.
It's pretty sweet. Yeah.
Turned out really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I don't know. From there on, it's just, I don't know, I just kind of just been working at it ever since.
Were you ever overwhelmed with it, or were you always just raw and curious about it?
Probably both, I'd say.
Okay.
I feel like I'm constantly overwhelmed just by there's everything to be overwhelmed by, just all different types of gear, different software, different everything like that. And then there's the music theory side of it, and getting a band together if you wanted to do that. And so yes, constantly overwhelmed, but I just kind of took my own, went at my own pace. So I didn't mind if I wasn't making a whole lot of progress, which I wasn't for a while. So I think that helped.
Yeah. I dropped a bunch of your links into the chat for anyone who is interested in kind of following up with you. You just released 2 new tracks, a little maxi, I guess you could call it, yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, on Bandcamp. And the links that I dropped into the chat will take folks there. They're brutal. Maybe your most brutal tracks that I've heard. And there's more, eh? But I feel like the synth of Synth Chris and the brutal, heavy, super baritone gnarliness, I feel like you're finding the perfect bridge in that material now. How do you feel about kind of where all of this has led in terms of, you just put out a track yesterday, you have a bunch of tracks out on Bandcamp. You talk about not taking a long time, but I don't know, in 5 years you did a lot more than I have.
I'm seeing progress, and that's what I like.
That's all
Like
you.
if I,
That's all you care.
that's pretty much it. And I'm gonna be honest, I am pretty proud of the stuff I put out yesterday. It was a lot of fun.
It's
Um,
awesome.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
having a lot of fun with those synths for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Miles or Nick,
Yeah.
curious how your origin stories kind of compare. If you want to kind of loop in a comment, Nick.
Oh, I was trying to
ties-
be selfish and click on Synth Chris's Bandcamp, but I forgot that you can't just
Oh, we
use
can't.
a link. So yeah, that was me being a noob right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I can. How I got started. Oh my goodness.
And how
Kind
it
of.
compares, because I feel like it's gonna. My guess is that it's gonna be similar for all of us.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. It's not that dissimilar. I graduated high school and did the logical thing and had a kid immediately, which was cool. But I had been playing guitar for I think maybe my junior and senior year, and then I moved out to Wisconsin and didn't want to associate with anybody because I was pissed and just played guitar for like a year and a half straight. And then yeah, I was like, man, I want to play in a band. I want to record music. I don't know what that is because this was in 1999. It was not 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was early.
And I
No,
met
no
some like
YouTube, right?
no,
Yeah,
there
if
was
if it was 90, there was no YouTube
there was
at
some
all.
forum. There was some forums, I think, right?
E-Bomb's
like-
World.
It was in all that stuff was in its infancy. Like
Yeah.
I met some people at my job who were musicians and into music, and we started playing and jamming together, and that's really kind of how it all began. It was a few more years before I was in a band, and I was in a band for a few years, and then that fell apart, and I just in and out of life kind of just recorded from then. I've been recording in some way, shape, or form on a computer since probably the year 2000.
Crazy.
Yeah. Crazy,
And Mr.
yeah,
Miles?
indeed.
Does any of that sound familiar to you? Do those two stories kind of coalesce to make the Miles story?
There's a lot of similarities and overlap in terms of like, well, first off, can you hear me?
Yes, you
Yeah.
sound amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Like how enthusiastic that was.
I was told to have a voice for radio
You do.
and have a
It's
face
true.
as well. No, but as far as my sort of upbringing and getting started, I always had the understanding in my head that like if I'm gonna do music, I need to have a band in order to do so. I didn't have much luck with learning the guitar when I first got it. And so it didn't become a thing that I was really comfortable with until I was probably like 12, 13, where I really started trying to like write my own stuff. And even then, it wasn't anything notable at all. But as far as getting to a point where I was comfortable enough to want to start writing my own music and trying to work with other people, it was a lot of talking to classmates and saying, "Hey, I see you got a drum set. You play that thing?"
I know that.
And kind of congregating at the kid's house that has a drum kit
Yeah.
and not really thinking about what works in terms of like a full function of like multiple people in one working sort of machine. So
It's just
in
to
the
get
bands that
anything
I've
done
been-
at all, right?
we got things done, but it would be short-lived. Where with the band that I was in, that was sort of like the longest running prior to my current project, we had like 6 drummers and we had 2 bass players.
6.
It was partly my fault because I was that guy who was like, "Oh, you can't make practice? Cool. We need a new drummer," and we just kick him out. The first
You're
time
not
we went to go,
serious.
yeah. Well, the first time we went to record, our bass player went on a skiing trip with his family to Colorado, And he's like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry, I forgot all about it." And I'm like, "Sure, no problem." So I recorded the bass on a righty bass flipped upside down,
Yeah, yeah.
and he came back, heard the recording on a CD when it was done, and was pissed. And I'm like, "Yeah, you had to be there."
Yeah.
But as far as recording, if it wasn't in a studio, this is gonna make me sound really old, but like my initial sort of like journey into recording myself and playing guitar and song ideas was getting a tape recorder,
Yeah.
recording the guitar in there, taking that tape, putting it in my boombox, getting another tape, putting that in the tape recorder, sitting that next to
Yep.
the boombox.
Yeah.
Yep.
started
No
the same
click
way.
track, hoping for the best. Finding out the hard way that if you
The,
re-record over and over on the same tape, that it starts to get that sort of wobble to it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
A
yeah,
lot
I
of the
didn't
strum
start.
counts, you do the
No,
da,
I
da, 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 da,
I wasn't even that prepared.
da.
I would hear like the first note and I'd be like, oh, and just start playing from there
Go. Amazing.
because I was an idiot. But yeah, I didn't start recording anything on a computer or doing any sort of recording myself until I went off to college because I just
Right.
personally I didn't have any interest in recording. I figured I'll just
Go to the studio.
play guitar and someone else can press the space bar on the keyboard and then they can make it sound better because I don't know what I'm doing.
Can I ask how old, in fact, you are, Mr. Mouse? You look like a young man.
How old am I? 34.
34. Okay. Young enough. Kind of like right in the middle.
Yeah.
How old is everyone? I'm 49. I'm approaching 50.
I'm 40.
You're 40. Chris is 20, and
Yeah.
Miles is 34. Okay, that actually gives a great lay of the land in terms of the sort of cross section of examples of getting into this kind of stuff, and you know, so you did eventually at some point, Miles, get into using computers at least to demo your stuff. I don't know. Have you ever done stuff where you attempted to produce everything yourself, or it's always been the land of demoing?
Well, the more recent stuff that I've been putting out with Our Fears, because we were locked in and unable to meet up, and we had to kind of let go of our rehearsal space just because like none of us were working, so we couldn't make rent. But because of that, I started doing more stuff at home, and you know, being home and just having the motivation to get stuff done. I spent enough years being in these sort of dysfunctional situations where I want to do more and be productive and keep the ball rolling. And everyone's like, oh, I just made a new bong out of this Poland Spring bottle that I got from my mom's job, and like inviting their friends over for that. So investing in the software and hardware in order to be able to record at home was a high priority for me. And I learned a lot of stuff about it in college, but then kind of forgot about it because when I graduated, there weren't any jobs really aside from like teaching.
Right.
And even that was kind of slow. But as far as what I'm doing now, it's a lot more kind of like all on me to get it done.
Right.
And so as I'm doing it, I'm starting to kind of like rekindle all that information that I was learning when I was at school. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, that's how a compressor works. And, you know, tripping and falling a bunch. I have a mix that sounds great here. Then I go for a walk, and immediately I'm like,
I think that's the
snare
case
is
for
like,
all of us still. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
it's the worst. But I'm getting better. And I think that you never really want to get to a point where you're convinced that you're doing what you need to do without actually having to hear what you did yet.
Mhm.
Every time I go to record now, especially with the stuff that I'm doing with YouTube and with the band, it's a different experience. I don't have any templates. I'm just like, well, this sounds good. This sounds good with that. And just kind of building up from the ground up.
Yep. Cool. And that's how you will probably arrive at some point with templates, or not. Maybe you'll go back, because you started gigging already, did you not?
What, the new material?
No, but like in New Jersey, you've started gigging out. Like you've been able to play out recently. Did you not just play a wedding?
Well, yeah, the wedding band stuff. I mean, that's like top 40 stuff. So
Yeah.
like, all
But it
I
does
really
mean that what I mean is like you're able to kind of go out and do things, so you're not so much like locked to the bedroom and having to get results in this way.
Oh yeah, no, it's new world again.
Yeah.
You'd think I'd be more familiar with playing out, but like, it's different. It's different.
Yeah.
And I'm like not even motivated to do it, like kind of on the low about it. Like everyone's
Right.
like, "Oh, live music, it's coming back, and I'm like,
Not
I
excited.
gotta move amps and cabs. I gotta be around people.
Yeah.
So I also have an education in music recording and production and all that. I did it previous, like I was in studios previous to that as an artist, but also was picking up the craft of it. And I started with the cassette tapes and moved to a 4-track way before digital was like a thing. Very similar to yourself, Miles. Nick, you're 100% self-taught. And Chris, you're 100% self-taught, or did you pick up any courses? I know that modern high schools have media departments now, like media class options. Was any part of that part of your experience, or 100% self-taught?
I didn't take any classes for like mixing and mastering, but I took a class for guitar, but that was it.
Right. And Nick, I know you did some online classes.
I mean, anything online has just been like, like Creative Live has some stuff, and URM.
Yeah.
I've subbed to them for a while. What else is that one with Fab DuPont? All those other audio. I've had subscriptions to like education and training, but I haven't ever taken anything like in a school per se or
Right.
anything like that. Yeah, everything is just more often than not trial and error and looking it up.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's funny. I feel like for myself, and I'm curious, Miles, what your story is on this. That for me, after school, once I left school and was out there working in studios and also doing my own music later on after that, that's kind of where I maybe learned the most. Having a little bit of a foundation from school, like, oh, okay, I know what those words mean now. Was it maybe a little bit similar for yourself?
Well, yeah, definitely, because one of the things that really was a bit of a hindrance for me when I was in school was that they were doing everything on Macs and in Pro Tools.
Right.
And so me coming from the world of PCs, I was like, where's the right click? And they're like, oh no, you got to do this. And like, you got to remember all these shortcuts and all this stuff. And so like a lot of what was being presented to me in school was being presented in a way that I felt like I was being bombarded with information. And so I would just kind of tune out.
Right.
And so when I started doing everything on my own, the information about how to go about doing things kind of fell back into place, but I felt like I had a better understanding because it was more of a hands-on approach than I was able to have in school.
Right. That makes a ton of sense. And your platform, what is everybody's platform? Miles, your platform is your primary, just for the folks to know, your DAW.
For recording?
Yeah.
I'm the weirdo who's on Reason.
You're on Reason. Reason's a cool DAW. I'm on Reaper. Chris, I think you're also on Reaper.
Oh yeah, I'm on Reaper.
And have you been on Reaper since the beginning?
Well, I started with Audacity, but
Yeah.
yes, Reaper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Audacity is actually a really great primer for it all because it's so simple. You can just sort of focus on getting your feet wet. And I don't know, do the other two of you, Nick and Miles, do you guys have experience with Audacity at all?
Yeah, I've used it for various things now and again. I used to use it all the time to load MP3s in and then slow it down and like learn parts of songs.
Right.
Yeah, I never did a ton of. I think I probably did some VO now and again in it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I used. Honest. It's ironic. the first thing I started recording on was Reason before you could cleanly record audio in Reason. I don't remember how I did it, but I was doing it somehow.
Just recording really long samples.
Yeah, I don't remember what I was, or maybe I was using Reason to program drums and then exporting those drums and maybe I was putting it into Audacity. I don't remember entirely, but I was demoing somehow, some way with Reason. Oh, I was using Rewire to go from Reason for the drums into Reaper.
Right.
Because like there was no Superior drummer yet, or
right.
it might have just been in its infancy. So that's how I was getting
expensive.
drums. Or that was probably it too.
Yeah.
I mean, for the longest time, I used just straight up. Remember Bunn? You remember just general MIDI drum sounds?
Yeah.
I'm sure I got demos with just like boring ass general MIDI drums.
Yeah, like video game drums. And
yes,
Synth Chris
exactly.
is like, yeah, all day. I'll turn it on. I want it.
Yeah, now people are now people are looking for a plugin for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where I was trying to avoid it. Yes, but I used Reaper for a long time, and I still will go back to it once in a while just to play around, just to kind of see what's going on in there. But I've been on Studio One for a long time now.
Right.
Yeah.
Chris, what does your sort of software kit look like? The basic kit, like you don't have to get into all the plugins or whatever, but like DAW drum program of choice, maybe guitar modeler of choice. Like what are the number one, what's the short list of those things that you're using, and kind of what you think of them, how you got there, that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So I'm using Reaper, and I have a bunch of templates in that. But for the drums, I'm using GGD Modern and Massive, which I think is great. Sounds amazing, but
great
it's
price
really
too.
annoying. Great price, yeah. I got it on sale too, so even better. But Contact is, a little annoying to work with. Especially when I was moving all my stuff over to a different computer. It's annoying to whatever.
Yes, Contact is like a serious thumbs down.
Yeah.
But
And
the drum kit is amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. For the bass, I don't have it with me, but I'm using the Neural DSP Parallax.
Great.
It's amazing. I love it. I had like 5 tracks loaded with effects before I used it, and now it's just the one track.
Yeah.
It's just Parallax.
Amazing.
For my guitar, I have 3 amps that I use, like 3 amps that I combine.
Right.
I have.
Very curious.
They're all free, and that's why.
Yep.
Because I didn't want to pay for, my computer my laptop wasn't able to run like for Nameless or whatever it's called.
Right.
So I have Ignite Emissary, Ignite SHB, which is a bass amp, and the Fluff amp, the Fluff signature amp, the free version of that.
The EL34 5150 from
Amped Roots.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the one. I don't know about any of those numbers, but Amped Roots, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Throw that all together, and that's what I got.
And I'm going to drop it in here again. This is Chris's latest release that he released last night. And this is an example of some of the tones that you're getting with these configurations. Sounds brutal and awesome.
Thank you.
So take a check. I guess Miles, in terms of your favored workflow, you're using Reason. What are you using for drums? What are you using for amp sims?
I just recently started using Contact, and it's awful. I hate it. I'm using the Get Good Drums One Kit Wonder because that was on sale, and I figured that it was going to be less variations of options to choose from. I figured it's these cymbals, it's these drums, fine, go.
Yeah.
Because prior to that, I was programming all of my drums in the native drum machine in Reason, Redrum. And I mean, it gets the job done. If you tweak the dynamics and stuff like that, you can get something that's decent.
Mhm.
Like I did that Celine Dion meets Killswitch Engage cover with just the redrum patches.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish I had the GDD stuff at the time, but money, man.
Yeah.
And aside from that, like for guitars, I've been using a lot of the Neural DSP stuff. I originally started with the Abasi plugin,
Mhm.
and then from there I got I think it was the Corey Wong. That
Yep.
one really like changed my opinion on like a lot of stuff in terms of just like the sound processing. I have the Parallax for bass. I thought about getting the Dark Glass one that the Neural DSP has, but I don't
They're
know. I think if
super
I had Parallax,
similar,
I'm good.
and if anything, I think the Parallax is just kind of easier to get a
Hmm.
variety of things that you need out of it.
Like I could probably get the same sound from that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
I feel like Parallax is just easier to work with
yeah,
in terms of getting a nice solid bottom end. The
Right.
Dark Glass plugin, the getting a big bottom end is a bit tougher.
well, yeah, it's primarily trying to get that sort of like
The snarl.
crispy, high end,
Yeah.
like scooped mid sort of sound, almost like a fieldy sort of thing, but not.
Yeah.
Although I've been using the Gojira plugin a lot lately, and
Right.
I've been quite smitten with that.
That's what it seems. Yeah, I've
It's
been
pretty
following your.
dope.
Nice. And Nick Hill, primary sort of things. We know that you are the Helix guy, but
Yeah.
your DAW drums and maybe the patches that you're, certain high points of those things.
Yeah. So, obviously, I use Helix primarily. I've used everything that you guys have listed off so far to some degree, mainly to try it and see how it sounds. Parallax, I will concur, is amazing. I primarily use Superior Drummer. I just find Toontrack's interface and their MIDI libraries to just be like ridiculously amazing and easy, and the ability to search for grooves inside of Easy Drummer and Superior Drummer is like a time saver beyond anything else. And at this point, with as many years as I have invested in that company, I share libraries with my best friend Lenny, so we have a ton of libraries and MIDI stuff. So primarily use Superior Drummer. I've used Perfect Drums on the Wells stuff, which is cool because it's pretty affordable and it sounds good. Inside of Studio One, using the Helix, using stock cabs nowadays, but when I do venture into IRs, I'm pretty much using Own Hammer stuff exclusively. I've tried just about every company's stuff out there. I always go back to Own Hammer, not because they pay me, but because they sound the best, in my opinion. Using Solar guitars on most of my stuff. I have a 5-string Cort bass for the low tune stuff, and a Squier Jaguar bass.
That's your secret weapon right there.
That's my What that sounds
Sounds killer.
above it. It sounds way above its pay grade.
$200 bass, $300 bass.
Yeah, 300 new.
Yeah,
And
wow.
I got that 8 years ago. The thing just still sounds killer.
Yeah.
What else? Yeah, I mean, I think that those are the highlights. I'm going into a modestly priced PreSonus interface, running the Helix into the interface. Nothing special. Yeah.
Cool.
What else is there? Yeah, that's about it.
Are you guys all pretty happy with kind of where you're at right now? Of course, everybody would like to maybe experiment with something else or explore something else, but like, is everybody pretty happy in terms of their creative routine, in terms of the things that they're using and how it's serving them?
Yeah. Originally, when I first started in terms of trying to get into recording on my own computer, I got one of those fancy Line 6 UX2
I had that.
interfaces.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was legit at the time because I was like,
Yeah.
oh, it
Pod
comes
Farm.
with Pod Farm
Yep.
and
Yep.
the insane amp, you know, finally.
Yep.
But I recently upgraded to a Focusrite Scarlett 4i4.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a bit of a difference in terms of the sound quality. I feel kind of limited in terms of the input options that I have available. But you know, whatever. There's always room to upgrade. And like I've talked to Nick about the what is
Stomp,
it?
baby.
Well,
Oh.
Stomp, yes. But the 2-note torpedo captor. I had high hopes for it when I first got it, and I'm assuming that I'm just using it wrong, but so far I haven't liked it in terms of doing like real world amp usage rather than just using amp sims.
Yeah.
But
I had the captor for a while. It was cool, but way faster, easier, and more satisfying just to use amp sims, even free amp sims like Emissary, like what Chris is using.
right.
Chris, you also have a Focusrite interface, do you not?
Yes, sir. I got the Solo Focusrite. Yeah, Scarlett Solo 2nd gen. I'm very happy with it. It's got everything I need.
I feel like that Focusrite stuff, the Scarlett series stuff, is an amazing value for not only kind of getting started, but I think it punches high enough that you can ride with that for a really long time and do great work with those interfaces. There's lots of great interfaces out there, but I feel like those are just like you plug them in and they work. Everything is compatible and they sound great for a really long time.
Yeah. One of the first interfaces I had was a 2i2, the 1st gen, and that thing lasted me several years.
Yeah. And the price is great, you know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. We're going to cap off on one last little bit here with Chris, and then we're going to grab some comments. So Nick and Miles, if you could kind of go through the comments and see what we got there. But the last bit here in terms of the getting started, Chris, I just want to bridge this little gap here, is you're in school for software,
Yes, sir.
computer sciences, and you're kind of experimenting with bridging the gap between those two worlds, your music life and your software development life. And you've been creating some programs. What are some of the things that you've been creating to help you with your music production? There are some videos that you have on your YouTube channel with like your random drum operator or whatever, but can you describe kind of what you're doing there and maybe what's to come?
Yeah, I got some ideas, but so far I've got a few Python tools for like pseudo random songwriting. There's one that, that generates a whole MIDI file for drums, for guitars, for bass.
So crazy.
Yeah, it's it's not like a neural network or anything. It's just random stuff, but it sounds pretty cool, I'd say. I've got another one for writing drums, and you can put in you can actually like customize it in case you want to get your own random drum file. So you can like, oh, I want eighth notes in here, I want quarter notes, I want whatever, and I can have note rest and whatnot. So that's another thing I have. I've written 2 VSTs, just simple VSTs, but they're in C#, and I'm using the Juice framework if anyone's interested. I recorded and wrote.
What are the VSTs?
Oh, right.
Because you're like, they're simple VSTs. I'm like, that
simple.
sounds so complex to me.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy.
I mean, that's the cool thing with framework. It makes it a lot simpler for you. But one of the VSTs is just a hard clipper. It just sets everything to 1 or -1 or 0.
Right.
Another one is something I call the wave splitter. It takes every full wave and splits into 2 waves.
Oh wow!
So I don't know if I explained that well, but yeah.
No, I get it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It makes some gnarly sounds. So
yeah, I dropped Chris's YouTube link. He has some videos about these things on his YouTube channel, so that's in the chat. And if some of these topics, interest you, definitely get in touch with him. And one thing I've noticed, Chris, is you're a man of collaborations, all kinds.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, get in touch with Chris.
Something might happen.
Yeah, magic.
Yeah.
Crazy. We're going to get more into all this stuff, but we're going to grab a few comments.
You took mine.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
No, this is good because
I'm glad I'm not the only one who thinks that, because like I don't have much experience with this stuff, but like it is not a welcoming experience.
It's why I
At
won't
all.
cover it. I will never cover it.
there are some really good videos on how you can set up contact with Get Good Drums, but there is like an initial setup you have to do, and it's a pain in the ass. And then it's sort of like you got to set it a preset every time you're going to use it. I just got a Mac Mini for down here to replace my PC, and I'm working on getting my libraries put on a hard drive. But until that time, like I put Contact on here and was running Invasion, and it runs like absolute dog shit on this thing. Everything else, this thing can edit all the 8K footage I want, but Contact was making it run like a hog, and I'm like, oh, okay,
It's
so we're
crazy.
we're here again, okay. But I have two of the One Kit Wonder kits. I have Invasion. I have the Halpern kit. I have the one that Synth Chris has. I have, yeah. But Contact is the thing that's like, I'm like, it's a pile of crap. I don't like it. Even when I have it set up properly, there's still a crazy amount of work you have to do. And it's just why I keep sticking with Tune Track stuff, because it sounds just as good. It's way easier to work with, like hands down, way easier to work with.
It's
and even if
like that
yeah,
like it probably kept me in the position that I was in for so many years, where like as far as gear, where my focus was, it was more focused on pedals and just like real world amplification of my guitar and doing sort of like interesting stuff in that regard, and not integrating computers into it in any sort of way, because like almost every time I sit down to try to do something, my brain is like, you what
yeah. And like that's probably a benefit to like someone like Chris, who's like basically, and I mean no offense because I'm the same way, is a nerd. So you're like wanting to dive into this stuff. If you want to just record stuff and you sit down at a computer and you're like, okay, I need some drums, and you're like, what the hell do I do? Like, I completely understand like that barrier to entry, which was pretty huge with a lot of things before like YouTube was prevalent. Like I remember, man, being on forums, and this is why I always preach in a video, if it's technical, like read the effing manual, man, because that, like, literally that's all I had. Like reading a PDF like on whatever software I got, or
it's also very helpful.
It is. So it's like, oh my gosh, you can actually figure out what this thing does. But yeah, it's a bummer about GGD you having to use Contact. I think if they get their own independent player, it'll be a game changer for them.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
It also doesn't help that with Reason, there's no like sort of seamless integration.
Oh yeah.
Into Reason, and I know that's like my own fault, but like, you
No.
know what? The Line 6 thing came with Reason Limited, so I stuck with it. I don't want to hear it.
Totally. I mean, I've been in that boat. Absolutely. Let's see. Everybody pretty much got similar gripes about GGD.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I love the way it sounds, but setting it up, I was just like, this is not friendly.
No.
I'm capable, I have the capacity to do with it, but it was like a little bit frustrating, and I'm just like, most people would quit.
That's what I was telling him. Like,
Yeah.
there's some good videos on how to set it up, but the
Yeah.
initial setup you're like, hold up,
Yeah.
what do I have to do?
And even Chris is like, I don't even like the setup.
Nah, man, it's a pain. Although it does seem pretty nice for people who are like actually making sample libraries, but you actually have to have the paid version of it in order to even. It's dumb. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. David Hallwell, he's intrigued with your programming bit there. C plus was or C sharp was his jam, and he's interested in that framework. Chris, you got some potential
Yeah.
Collaborators
or pilgrims.
Pilgrims. Oh my.
You're the
Yeah.
leader of the new dawn.
Got a couple here. Squire basses are legit, Steven says.
They really are.
It's true.
And then RoughRiffs says, I also have a $2 Squire bass from 11 years ago. Seems to be serviceable enough for me, at least. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm working on a video for the store again on a affordable Ibanez guitar, and it's like the finish on that thing is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's
I
a
can see it there.
$399. Yeah, it's got one of those open pore finishes. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's $400. It's crazy. But the point I'm trying to make is, like, I got that Squire bass and it's gnarly. It sounds gnarly. You know, people are like, dude, your bass sound. I'm like, you're going to be really disappointed when I tell you what I'm playing with.
a lot of the older Squire stuff, it definitely seems to hold up better than some of the more recent iterations of their guitars and basses. But the basses have always sounded good, I think. I've had my Squire Strat since I was like 11, and you know, I went to so many shows where people were like, what are you gonna do with that? And I'm like, watching.
It's funny.
Yeah,
that's cute. It's cute when people get like that. I want to get another one. I want to get another 4-string, and I want to get a 5-string. And it's definitely, you know, when you get an affordable instrument like that. No, so we already know it's going to sound good, but you know, you can kind of get your feet wet with like upgrading parts and doing stuff like that, because you know your barrier to entry is pretty low.
With our pal Matt from Renato Quarter, he upgraded. He had a Squire 5-string. He upgraded the pickups to the Seymour Duncan quarter pounders.
Sounds so good.
It sounds killer, insane.
Yeah.
But we're gonna jam along here to the next little bit. I don't know if you guys are ready. I think our big takeaway on the first bit is really kind of what gets you started and what keeps you going. I think my takeaway from the conversation is curiosity and just a desire to get things made.
You got to have that motivation, because like otherwise you end up sitting on the couch being bummed.
Yeah.
And
regret.
I mean, for me, for sure, it was like just finally getting to a point where I was fed up and I'm like, I'm going to figure out how to do this. Yeah. I don't have studio money, but I have my computer. Everyone else is doing their own thing. I'm here. Let's just get something done.
Yeah.
Let's do something.
It's an interesting thing. It kind of segues into, I don't know, sort of this psychology element of getting at these things or keeping up with these things. And I'm very curious about this one because Chris is a little bit newer, a little bit fresher to all of this stuff, maybe potentially a little more enthusiastic. Maybe not. We'll find out. But something that I've run into a lot is through my 20s and 30s, a lot of people kind of segueing out and, kind of the growing up sort of stuff. And then now a lot of people trying desperately to get back in because they're like, what did I do? And there's this sort of guilt thing of trying to do it, whether it be for the purpose of like, a business or success or whatever, or just for fun. doesn't matter what the motivation is. Have you guys, any of you guys, ever wrestled with this sort of guilt of pursuing something that is, I don't know, seemingly pointless or seemingly childish or whatever the social pressure might be, or maybe it's a personal pressure, I don't know. Have you ever wrestled with it? Or if you never have, like, what does it actually look like for you, or whatever?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in because I have actually, I mean, every kind of spot on that spectrum, I've been there. It's like
Right.
I wanted to do it. I had kids pretty early. So there was always this like, oh man, is this stupid of me to be pursuing? You know? But I still did it. And then it's like people are always like, well, real job, you got kids, bills, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, you're right. And I like stopped for a few years, like sold all my shit.
Yeah,
And
you've said that before.
yeah,
Sold it
and
all, like later.
sold it all.
I'm out.
Like it is gone. And it was like the worst couple years of my life. Honestly, it was. And then, you know, I found myself in a position where I'm like, you know what? No, that's the missing ingredient. And while it looks like, and I've had people say like, well, do you get paid for this? Or how much money do you make? Or it's so cool. You know, you have your money on it. Like, it's like, I don't make really any money off of this to this day. Like, really, but like it's as important to me as if I were making money from it, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I don't see it as a hobby. Although a lot of people would, but like
It's
I'm in it, you know?
a richer experience of life. Richness is not just money. The richness of life, I think, depends
Yeah.
on what you task yourself to.
I think that's it, Bunn. I think it's like um it's so easy to just like go to work, come home, watch TV, you have dinner, you watch TV, you go to bed, you wake up, you go to work, and you just repeat this cycle. But like, there's not a shitload of purpose in that. And when you're in the arts, like, you know, I'm looking at the document, like, I've always been a creative person. Like, I drew a lot too when I was a kid. Like I drew a ton, man, and I was really good. And I honestly thought that's what I was going to be, was some
Right.
sort of artist or a cartoonist or an animator, man. I wanted to be an animator so bad. Um, and then it just, you know, then music started hitting me a certain way, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is what I want to do. But I even to this day want to get back into art to a degree, to a ridiculous degree that I have no business wanting to get into. But it's just how I am, because I'm not, you know, I do love cinema and I love good TV shows, but I don't really watch, I don't really partake, you know.
Mhm.
I'd rather be doing something creative because I feel more, like you said, fulfilled. Like I feel like, I don't know, man, when somebody hears my riffs or something I made and it's like, wow, that you did that? That's really good. Like, I'm like, cool.
It's such a buzz.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
I'm gonna throw it over to Chris just to get that, like, to go back to what might be the beginning. How do you feel about this thing? Has there ever been any guilt in pursuing this stuff? Is there any social pressure from the outside world in, you know, why do you waste your time with this sort of stuff? These are common things for a lot of people, but it might be a different world now.
Yeah. I don't think I felt like as much pressure as maybe other people have. I felt a little bit, but you know, it's not like Cosman saying hi Cosman. But you know, it's not like music's been my number one priority. It's kind of like, you know, something I like to do in the back. So you know, it's not like it's ever cutting into school or work. But you know, sometimes it's gotten close, and I felt a little like, what am I doing? Should I be doing this? I should probably, you know, be studying or something. And then I study. But yeah, I don't think I'm feeling it that much.
Right. And you have an incredible amount of output, even though you have this, you know, you answer the responsibility of your life in terms of the pursuit of your education and all that kind of stuff. but your output in the last 5 years is significant. I'm just taking a look at you released Rookie Mistake in 2018,
Mhm.
and between then, Rookie Mistake was your first EP, well, full length actually. It's a full length
Yes,
record.
sir.
And you've released 7 records or 7 releases since then. Some of those are singles though, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them, yeah.
And it's pretty developed stuff, both in the, the playing, the arrangements and all of the instrumentation, all that, and as well the production. And of course, little hype because you're today's guest. New release as of last night, the Necrovault.
Yes,
Check
sir.
it out. But yeah, I find it interesting that you're devout to your studies in school and whatnot, as well as you work part-time jobs. And right now you're doing part-time job plus an internship plus still making music. Released something last night.
Oh, to be young again.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I do 2
Yeah.
things in one day, and I need like a vacation now.
Mr. Miles, how does all of this, like, where do you fall on this spectrum, if it is a spectrum, and how does social pressure or guilt or any of that factor in or not factor into your own?
I mean, it definitely played a role. Before I get into that, I want to note that Stacy raised a good point in the comments about how giving up on the things that you're passionate about can affect your ability to be a good parent.
You can click on it, hey, by the way.
Maybe I will.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like at my previous job, I met so many kids whose parents are like, Dad used to play guitar in a band, and like are now forcing their kid to play guitar or drums,
Right.
and their kid's like, I just want to play Pokemon Go, man. Like, I don't want to be here. And it's almost like them trying to rekindle what they had before vicariously through their kid, and that sucks. And plus, like, if you just feel unfulfilled, what kind of existence
go and
is
get
that?
fulfilled.
Yeah.
Music is an interesting thing because it's very accessible.
Yeah.
Real quick, because Miles, that's I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm just going to say this. Part of me going really, really hard in this whole thing a couple years ago was to show my kids, like, you don't have to settle for just a job.
Mhm.
Like, I learned all this video stuff. It was like, I've said this before, like, I want to do music, but I don't have a band. All right, I'm going to do YouTube so people can hear my music. What do you need to do YouTube? You need to learn how to edit. So that's what I did. I learned how to edit and shoot film, and then I ended up getting a job, and I'm a professional person who edits videos and shoots videos and film and documentaries. And like, part of my motivation was like, I want my kids to see, like, if you want to do something, you can still do it.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
and you can put in the work. So like, I'm glad you brought that comment up. That was,
Well, it
Yep.
rings true for me as well, because I think we all, I don't know how much of a factor it is for you, Chris, but like at least for me, around the age of 20, that's when everyone around me was kind of like, oh, you're still playing in a band? Oh man. So what are you doing
And you're
for
like,
work?
I'm just getting started.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. Why would I go and take guitar lessons for all these years and invest all this time in this just to say like, oh, well, I better go get a job now. So for me, I definitely went through a phase where I just got burnt out because I was touring a lot with my old band, and I was like constantly in the studio, constantly playing shows, constantly working with people that I didn't get along with. And one day it just clicked in my head, like, you don't have to do this. And so I just kind of stopped and just disregarded everything. I like quit the band that I was in, had a kid. And from there, after I just like didn't enjoy music at all for like a year, I was kind of like,
Wow.
No, I kind of still do. I think what it was like I was going out to see other people playing music, and I was like, I can do that because I'm a terrible person that way. But like, that sort of incentivized me to be like, just figure out a way to make it happen,
To
either on
bring it
your
all
own
together.
or with other people. And
Right.
so I started writing, and then I went to a buddy of mine who had a studio and started recording with him. And that's how the ball started rolling in that regard. But like, even for my kids, like my son, he tells me he wants to do like a video for TikTok. He wants to start a YouTube channel. And I'm like, yeah, you should. Anything that you want to do, you should pursue it. And you don't need to feel like there's some sort of like reason to hold yourself back. Cause
At any age.
yeah, like at the end of the day, you need to make sure that you are happy in order to make the people around you happy.
Yep.
Because I know lots of people that aren't taking care of themselves. And so like now everyone around them's got to deal with that.
Yeah.
And that
Absolutely.
really sucks.
Happy doesn't come from the outside, unfortunately, although a lot of people are looking for it, but it starts on in.
Yeah, Miles brought up something that I was thinking about for a while. You guys have all done the like live and touring and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't done any of that, so I don't know if that plays a factor in that.
Right.
It probably does.
The band that you did kind of muse on for a bit, you guys just played in the house, in the basement, in the garage, whatever, for a short period of time, and that was that.
Yeah, at the drummer's house, just show up, jam a little bit, and that was it. I'm in another band now.
Oh,
right now.
in
And apparently,
Seattle?
no, I mean we're all online. So,
Okay.
yeah, people from like Ohio and Florida, I think. Just a couple
It
people.
sounds like my kind of band practice.
Yeah, yep.
Get up and
Uh,
leave.
It's Nuvo. Apparently they're in the chat. I don't know if they still are, but
Oh, cool.
my
Oh,
band.
there's Nuvo.
It slams.
It slams. Nice. And we got it right here. Yeah, Frontier did it, and it worked out really well for them. They're all over the world. And the first show they played was Euroblast.
No big deal.
Yeah, easy. Very cool. Yeah, for me, I definitely went through that sort of guilt period because the partner I had at that time was, very heavily like, what are you doing with your life? What are you going to do? And all that kind of stuff. And I went to school for audio, and then I got a job, a couple jobs right out of school in studios and whatnot. It was weird though, because it was the period where the studios were falling apart and Pro Tools was coming in really aggressively. And eventually I ended up opening my own studio, but I had broken up with that girl. Once I was like, I got to go for this thing on my own terms. But yeah, I definitely run into it a lot, where a lot of folks feel really guilty for the pursuit of doing something fulfilling for themselves. If it's purely just for that, when it comes to something of the arts like music, it's like, oh, I do this stupid thing.
I think it's like a bit of a conditioning that can come from your upbringing, where
Mhm.
Right.
it's presented to you as anything that brings you enjoyment but not necessarily financial stability is simply an extracurricular activity. And
An impractical somehow.
it's fine if it is, but it doesn't mean that you have to give it up for the sake of going and getting a job.
That's right.
Like I've worked with people that spend all their time at work and they only look forward to like the 2 weeks that they go on vacation every year, or they like go to Disney, and I'm just like, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Like you're devoting your time to working and being a cog in the machine, so then you can have 2 weeks to be a consumer whore to Walt Disney. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of lame.
Yeah.
That's how most of this country, maybe the world, works, which is Crazy.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough on the mind, I think, psychology. Mr. Cosman here. We're going to grab some comments. I feel like it's the kind of thing that sort of happens as a result of your environment, your relationships, your overall situation. And I think it's something that's different for everyone. However, it is quite prevalent in society. And Cosman, he also sold it all, stopped for 6 years. It will come back to haunt you if this is the path that you go on. Yeah, I've known quite a few people in recent life. Like I say, I'm about to be 50 years old, and there's a lot of people in my periphery, people that I don't necessarily hang out with, but that I've known for a long time. And it comes up every now and again. If we do chat, it's like, I'd love to do that again, all that kind of stuff. People kind of wrestling with themselves to get back at it because it does something to your soul. It gives you energy.
Lucky for me, I can't really get rid of any of my stuff. Like, no one wants a lefty guitar. So
Oh, right.
I'm kinda stuck
That's
with it.
true.
Anyone got any eyes on some comments?
Oh man.
I did want to
Yeah.
clarify something really quick.
Yeah, get into it.
Apparently, the Nuvo that commented is just another person named Nuvo. It's not my band.
Oh, wow.
What a
But-
coincidence.
Yeah.
So it doesn't slap then?
Well, I'm not saying it doesn't slap. It does.
You're a
I
phony.
assure you.
You're a phony.
No, I'm no phony.
Yeah, you listen to Chris's latest demo that he dropped and it's not demo, to Maxi EP. Dropped
I'm
it
gonna
last
listen
night.
to it tonight.
Yeah.
I've been at work all day. Like before then, I was power washing the back patio. So like now my hands are just like all over the place. I'm all frazzled, and this is like my third energy drink today.
Oh,
So
excellent.
feeling
work.
great.
Excellent work. I like your style. I'm
My
gonna drop
heart's currently playing
Chris's
the intro to Hopper Teacher.
little jammer here in there because it's worth checking. Oh, Nuvo says, nah, it's me.
Oh, I guess we have 2 YouTube channels then.
Surprise.
It's real confusing.
This is, yeah. Maybe I'll settle this off camera.
Chris was in a band.
Yeah, they kicked me out apparently.
He's gonna sell it all right now.
Oh, man.
I'm kind of reading this as I'm posting it. The good news is we all have now. What are you doing now that brings you joy? If the answer is nothing, you can fix it. And this is so true. This is something even at the start, head of this show, great example. Head of the show, we were having these strange technical issues and we got a double stream out of it. All the settings were right, but for some reason it created a new stream, all this stuff. And it was frustrating, and I wanted to take the computer and just throw it out the window, for real. But then it resolved itself, and here we are. And you have that you have the moment to fix it, the moment to kind of change your mind about what's going on, and stay stoked, or get stoked, or do something.
Kudos to you for sticking around for that moment, because I usually don't. I'm usually like, done.
Yeah, hands up. And you're like, out, done.
Yeah, get me away from this computer before it becomes a hole in the wall.
Yeah, 100%. And Apoplexia is saying that this is, I think, a similar story for all of us. Miles, were you ever a visual arts guy? Yes, I know you are now. But when you were younger, did you draw and all that kind of stuff a lot?
Oh yeah, I had my own comic book series that
Amazing.
like everyone in my school was like, when's issue number 4 coming out? And I'm
Nice.
like, when I draw it. I had the
Oh, man.
opportunity to meet Stan Lee
Oh, wow.
through my art teacher in elementary school. He actually had me teaching an art class in 5th grade on
Awesome.
figure drawing. Because
Wow.
he was like, why are you good at this? And I'm like, because I'm not good at anything else. But
It's interesting to me how some people just have an inclination towards these sorts of things.
I've always been drawing. Like my
Yeah.
mom would go to business meetings and she would take out all of her presentations and stuff and find like trains drawn poorly across like papers and everything. And I don't know, like I see it in my daughter. She gravitates towards drawing and coloring, but like not just scribbling. She like actually wants to draw things and make images.
Yeah.
And my son does it as well, but he's more of a storyboard drawer. And I try to just encourage it as much as I can, because for me, the reason why I kind of cut back on it was because it became like a job. My mom would constantly have me doing stuff for her job, like for her friends. She wanted me to make a poster for her so she could go see Prince and so he could see the poster. And I'm like, kind of in the middle of riding my bike, Mom. She's like,
Yeah.
you need to do this. And so after a while, I was like, well, I guess I'm done drawing. It's not fun anymore.
Right.
But at this point now that I'm getting more into doing everything in a digital environment rather than on pen and paper, I've been more intrigued and interested in doing it again. And
Right.
it's been interesting. It's frustrating, but I'm
Just a
interested
fresh
in it still.
perspective.
Yeah.
Mr. Chris, you in your outline, you definitely shared that you were drawing a lot when you were younger. Question to you, but also question to the whole group and everybody in the comments. Is there a big difference for you, or is there no difference for you in terms of how you approach the feeling, the motivation, the thinking in terms of drawing pictures, these sorts of things, whatever it is you make visually, and music? Or do you see them as completely separate processes, or do you have a similar kind of scope and approach?
I feel like they're like really different for me. All the drawing stuff I did was just like copying, like, oh, this is a cool picture, I want to draw it, I want to do shading and stuff. And I never took any like relevant classes about this is how you shade light, this is how you do colors, any of that.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't really creative. It was just kind of cool. Like, I guess it was creative in a sense, but I wasn't like making my own images or concepts or anything like that. But with music, I feel like I'm actually making something new. I'm writing new material and stuff, and I'll still draw. And now I guess I draw some things that are actually like my own design. Like I'll sketch, like the cover for Roots.
Yeah.
My album Roots. That's something I did. I sketched the artwork for
King
of the Locusts.
Yeah.
And then I had someone draw it based on my sketch. And then I've sketched for 2 releases that are coming up soon. I'm not going to talk about too much, but
Foreshadowing.
Yeah. So maybe there are similarities, but not for me, not a whole ton.
Nick and Miles, is your visual art life or visual creative lives, are there parallels in terms of in any way, or are they completely different?
I mean, as far as the understanding and control, I definitely have a lot more when it comes to the artistic, like visual art stuff. Cause like I know how a pad of paper works and I know how a pencil works. So I can sit down and do that. I don't need shortcuts. I don't need plugins. I don't need to do all this sort of like workarounds in order to just get the ball rolling. And so I can sit on the couch and watch a documentary and work on drawings for like merchandise and stuff like that and get it done. When it comes to songwriting and production, whether it be with actual recordings or with video stuff, it's coming from the same artistic place, but it's a different routine in terms of how I'm going about it. And I think that like this is par for the course in that case.
Nick?
Yeah, I think because so much time has gone between me being a good artist and now, like when I do pick up the pencil, if you will, nowadays I find myself getting pretty frustrated quickly, and it's kind of kept me from getting into it as much as I'd like to. Whereas I can come downstairs Like as an example, again, I'm going to use doing videos for this store. Like I'm writing new music for each of the videos, and last night I came down and pieced together a few riffs that didn't take me any time at all. And most people would be like, "Holy shit, how can you just come down and write the start of a song?" And I'm like, I don't know. I've been practicing it a lot, you know.
Yeah.
Where it's like when I start to draw again, I'm like, oh wow, it's like learning to. I don't know. I don't have a good analogy. Like I'm just say you didn't play guitar for 10 years or 20 years, you know, how much would come back right away? The fundamentals, but
Right.
that's about it. All that muscle memory and technique is kind of gone.
It sounds like for both of you, it has the difference is maybe the exposure in certain directions of each opposing thing.
Hmm.
Exposure and practice, I guess.
I think
Yeah.
my job hinders on my ability to be musically creative, honestly.
Right.
Because I'm just teaching other music to other people, like other people's songs and like the theoretical side of things. So like by the time I get home, I'm not really motivated to play guitar.
Does it tap you out? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But you
Like
write a lot of stuff, don't you? You write a lot.
I write a lot, but and this might sound weird. I don't know if this happens to any other musicians, but a lot of the stuff that I write, I hate. So I don't do anything with it. And it's a different process. Like it's a more drawn out process for me when it comes to recording because I want to go about it in a certain way where I want it to sound like it's fluent and not like a collage of different clips that are cut together as far as guitar parts and stuff.
Right.
So if I mess up midway through the song, I'm like, it's the equivalent to me falling off my bike. Like I'm not riding anymore. I'm walking my bike back to the house. And at this point, like if it happens enough times, I'll probably give up and say, forget it. And maybe come back to it. But yeah, it's it's a trip.
It makes me wonder, Chris. I already know personally in terms of Nick, but we're going to hear from you again on this topic. But Chris, we'll start with you. What Miles is saying, it's like a lot of the stuff that he comes up with, he doesn't like, and I think this is a common thing to kind of be hypercritical of the things that you're creating, especially if you put a lot of pressure on, not pressure, but you know, the music thing is a big deal for all four of us. So there's maybe a little bit more pressure that is riding on our music creations than maybe other things that we're creating. Maybe not. I might be a little bit wrong there. But one thing I do know for at least myself and Miles, and like I say, Nick, I'll let you speak for yourself here. But for me, it takes like maybe 100 to 1, like 100 tries before I have something that I like. However, I can get through those 100 tries really fast. You know, in one day, I can probably try like 300 different things. And maybe arrive at a few things. I'm like, oh, okay, this, that, and that. I can maybe start working on these things and use them. What does it look like for you in terms of you just released some material? You got some material in the can already. What does it take to get that amount of material? How much is sitting in the timeline that you're like, I'm never going to use that?
Oh man,
How much?
there's a ton. There's a lot of the stuff that I write. I'm like, you know, I sometimes I'll feel like, you know, I already done that. I've already done I reuse like certain the third down to the second, reuse a bunch of stuff. It all sounds the same, or you know, so I'm like, scrap it. I don't like it, or this doesn't make sense. This is boring. Scrap that. So yeah, most of the time when I try to force something, also it just ends up going in the garbage. It's usually there's a couple two ways that I could like actually write music that I actually like, and that's when, you know, I think of an idea, let it, you know, think about it for like a week before I even like pick up the guitar, or I will just sit down with the guitar, and then something just for some reason works, and I pump out like an entire song in like 3 hours or something like that.
Nick Hill
And
style.
Nick Hill style, I guess. I don't. Is that Nick Hill style?
Seems like
What's my style? I'm sorry.
just pumping it out. Sit down. And it's like, okay, here's the song.
Oh, no, that is not the Nick Hill style, I assure you. No.
But yeah, you would you say, Chris, that inspiration comes from showing up?
What do you mean by that?
Like, instead of waiting for inspiration to show up, you show up, and that initiates inspiration more so.
I don't know, man. I guess it depends on the day.
Right.
Sometimes an idea will just hit me, and sometimes I'll stumble across an idea. So,
Yeah.
So I guess, show up, and if inspiration shows up, at least you're there for it, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a weird balance between like the idea of you have to be there in order for the potential ideas to show themselves, while also saying to yourself, like, you don't need to force this. Like, you don't need to make something happen if it's not going to happen. I know for me, when I was in college, we had what was called masterclass, where like every week we met with the head of our department and presented works that we were working on. And that was a jarring experience, but it was a really beneficial one, because every week I had to have like a new song, or I had to make alterations to the stuff that I had from the previous week. Like, I would bring in a song, lyrics and music, and my professor would say, okay, cool. Change the perspective from the male to the female's perspective, change the key and put it in 5/4. I'll see you next week. And I'm like, what? But it was encouraging me to have flexibility in terms of like being able to kind of adapt to variations and also incorporate variations into what I'm doing. And all my songwriting students, I don't know if any of them are watching, but like, they'll be the first ones to tell you that like I am great at giving them advice when it comes to songwriting. I'm just terrible at following it. So I'm like, oh yeah, do this, try this, take this idea and rephrase it, or, write out the notes that make up this key. And instead of trying to guess what chord's going to go well as a follow-up to the chord you're on, just pick from those. I never do any of that. I start with like a single chord and I'm like, nah. It immediately starts second guessing, like, I've already used E major. So it's hard.
Nick Hill, does any of this ringing true for you? I know that recently you've been pumping out a lot because of these videos for Cream City Music.
Yeah, so when it comes to this kind of thing, like, there's an added layer of I need to go downstairs and do something. So, but there's also like, for my own stuff, the bar might be here, and I'm not saying I'm settling and writing bad shit for these videos, but
right,
like, if I get to a threshold that I'm like, oh, this is good, I can use this, right, because I need like a minute's worth of music, maybe a minute and a half. So I can get away with not fleshing an idea out as much as I would for my own stuff. Mm-hmm. That being said, like Chris said, sometimes I'm not feeling it. But also, to your point, Bunn, it's like, I'll come down here, like, even with this last piece of music for the one that I'm working on now, like, I'm like, okay, I need to get something done. I need to write something. So I'll come and I'll write a chunk, and it'll all be like, okay, that's crap. Oh, here's a little piece that's good.
A little nugget.
And I'll try and refine it and re-record and refine it. And like, oh, I added a little bit here to go to that nugget. And then it's sort of like, oh, I got a riff. It's good. Yeah. And then I'll do that. And sometimes it'll be like, I have one decent riff and then one shit riff. And then I'll go to bed and come back the next day. And like, something will be in my head. And so sometimes it takes a while. Other times I'll like that track Humanity Bunn, I bring it up all the time. Like I sat down and like did that whole song in probably an hour, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's happened a couple times, but it's funny. You guys are all saying about like not liking your shit. I've gone on my streams, gone through all my archives of stuff that I don't use because I don't like it for one reason or another. And I too think like, oh, this sounds just like this, but something in me is like, oh, I don't care. It still sounds cool. Like
Yeah.
if you break down the riffs on like most of my music, it's like it could be one long song. You know what I mean? I'm not varying that much. It's like I'm AC/DC.
Yeah, I repeat myself like crazy. I definitely try to latch onto the things that I'm like, that's a Bunn thing. And I try to use those. I try to use Bunn things all the time.
Yeah.
But you know, it takes it still takes experimentation to kind of get there. But yeah.
I think real quick. I think
Yeah.
recording in and of itself is also like a means to write. You know, like I know you do the block thing, and I kind of do as well. And I was just thinking about it while we were talking. Like, I'll come up with a chunk and then refine it right there, but delete it and record it again. Where like, if I were to like take, okay, here's a good chunk, and then like Aaron Draplin, he'll draw a thing and then copy it and then alter it and then copy it and then alter it, and you can see the progress until his final design. If I were to do that with riffs, I would have like probably an hour, 2 hours worth of like refinement of like, here's the first chunk that turned into this, that turned into this, that turned into this. And oftentimes there's projects on hard drives that'll be like, here's this thing, and then it ended up being this project, and then it ended up being this project, you know? So there is some degree of that where it's like just recording, you're able to hear stuff back and write to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I do that all the time. Write something simple and then come up with a melody or a harmony that then takes me in another direction. And then I write something underneath it that makes a little more sense. So just being able to record, like we're kind of spoiled.
Oh, it's
you
amazing.
can just like get your ideas down and then refine them and chip away.
I'm curious in this process that we're talking about, putting a block down. How many parts do you guys shoot for? I shoot for 2 parts, and then everything else that I need for the piece of music comes from those 2 parts. Like those 2 parts inform absolutely everything else, and I don't dream up anything else, never. And so similar to what Nick is talking about, how it's like you got in this case, he's using a graphic design example, but it's the same. I do exactly the same thing with audio. I'll have the thing, I'll be like, okay, well, I need X amount of transitions, and I need a bridge, and I need like intro, outro, whatever. I need some things to support the primary elements, but they'll all come from that thing. So I'll copy them over, and I'll either do it through editing at first if I can, or I'll listen to it. I'll be like, if I cut it here and then I change this part, then I got the part that I need to do the thing that I need. Does any of that sound familiar to any of you guys, or is it completely different for any of you guys?
Yeah,
No,
it's
sounds about right.
Right.
like, sorry. So, but
Chris.
for the most part, it seems like I'll have like, this is like, oh, this is a good breakdown kind of riff, or this is a good like gnarly, like this is what I'll ramp up to, or maybe I'll have like an insane outro. For some reason, outros seem to be like I feel good writing those. It's just I also need to write everything in front of it. Maybe I could just have only outros, but you know, whatever. It's I don't have like a set amount though. I'm not thinking, oh, I need a bridge or a chorus, or you know, I don't really think in terms of, you know, A B A B A C or whatever.
Right.
Well, yeah, like as I tell my students, and as I try to do it on my own, is like try to come up with the ground structure of what you're trying to build, and not focus on the finer details going right out the gate. Like I had a student.
Quick question, Miles.
Sure.
In regards to something that's very different about your writing compared to the rest of us, is that you're also writing vocals, I think, right off the top. Are you thinking about vocals right off the top with this?
Thinking
And
about
does
how
it
much I
start
can't
with
stand it.
words? Do you
It-
start with
it-
words?
It varies because sometimes I'll have a sort of lyrical idea that pops into my head while I'm at work, and I'll jot it down real quick in like the notes app on my phone. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I go home and try to write some more stuff to go along with it. And as I'm thinking it through in my head, I'm thinking about the rhythmic value of what the lyrics are going to be doing, and then also sort of a melody to go along with it.
Right.
So I can figure out some music to complement it. But more often than not, I'm coming up with the music first, and then the melody follows, and then lyrics happen somewhere further down the road, because that for me is even harder than coming up with guitar parts, because like I can do that and I can get past that initial impulse thought of, I did that already. But when it comes to lyrics, I don't want to fall into a trap where I'm writing the same song again, just reordering the words.
I love you. I love you. I love you.
Yeah, you know, Beatles syndrome, where you have like 70 songs that have the word love in it. But like it's it's different now just because I have the ability to like jot something down in that moment. Like I remember when I was in high school, not having a phone or a computer or anything, it was like I gotta hum this idea in my head for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And then when I get home, I gotta try to like recreate it on my guitar. But I think it was also just because the drive to be creative was more prevalent then. I think I kind of got myself into this sort of like jaded position where I'm like, I can be creative whenever I want to be, and I don't want to be creative right now. And that just became like a regular thing. And I'm trying to break out of that.
Right.
So when it comes to that sort of thing, like in terms of lyrics, what I'll do is try to just like think about concepts in my head, or I'll take note of something that I'll see, like I'll go for a walk and I'll take a look at my surroundings and see like if anything strikes some sort of inspiration in my head from there, whether it be lyrics or music. But yeah,
Cool.
it's a process that's frustrating.
Yeah. And like what the thing that you've kind of outlined that I sort of always don't really think about, especially when I'm thinking about other folks and other folks sharing. It's like, oh, it's hard for me or whatever. Sort of like time of life, like kind of what's going on in your life at that time, what season it is sometimes, what isn't going on in your life at that time. These things can have a big effect in terms of what does or does not happen in terms of your creative output and how you can go about it.
And what I would tell my students about that I would say, oh, you should use that to write a song. You should write all that stuff down that you have on your mind and put that into lyrics into a song. And then I will not take my own advice.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, the biggest problem I have right now, as far as like my own songwriting, is I like the stuff that I'm writing. I just don't know how I'm going to play it and sing it.
I think don't worry about it and just go and see what happens.
Well, yeah, I will see what happens when I go to play it out somewhere and I'm like, oh God, I can't do this. But I'm trying
suddenly
not to have
instrumental Miles.
Yeah.
I like it.
Oh, Stacy asked me a question about a controversial song of mine.
Does anybody want to kind of like package up all that whole section? It got a little more organic on the end. We're going to grab some comments in a minute, and then we're going to do the final round. But yeah, any final thoughts, final motivations, final inspirations on all of these topics we've just covered from anyone?
I think you need to find motivation and inspiration where you would least think to look for it.
I agree.
You know, like one of my students was telling me about how he's frustrated with his job and just the sort of state of where he is in his life right now. And I'm like, I mean, sounds like something that could go into a song. And, utilizing that to your benefit.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best way to go about it. Someone breaking into your house?
That's
No,
not my house. That's Chris's?
Dishes.
Okay.
Yeah, or at least I hope it is.
I was gonna say, you're really calm about it.
They're washing themselves.
Yeah. Someone broke into my house to wash the dishes.
Whatchamacallit? There's a conversation kind of going here. Apoplexia, good strategy. There's so much going.
Yeah.
Also started this riffs session. Every time the riff fairy shows up, so this is Cosman. I open that riff session up and just record it, then move on. Soon I will go back and listen to all that, grab a riff and just go. Yeah, having a riff library works for some people. Some people have a great deal of difficulty with this. I'm curious about the three of you guys. For me, it works. Like, I just keep riffs in my working timeline. And I
revisit them later on.
Yeah, and in Reaper you can put these little markers that just say it and leave a note. And so I'll note them. I'm like, oh, this one's really good, and I'll just put a note on it, and maybe come back to it, maybe not. But I think it's Nick. You've shared before that you'd rather work on something new. Was that you? Like, you have old stuff, but you'd rather usually work on something brand new? Or maybe not. Maybe that's not you.
No, I mean, let's be honest, I could have fucking said that, but I'll do both way. I guess it depends, man. Like, I'll start something, and if I feel stuck, I'll try and start something new. But then sometimes I'll go back to old riffs to see if it'll fit with what I'm working on that I'm stuck on. So
okay. It's
like an amalgamation of any possible way I can slowly get that thing moving,
Yeah. Chris, do you go back through old stuff, or are you always like more motivated, more inclined towards always new stuff?
Sometimes I'll go back and listen to some riffs I wrote, but what I should be doing is what Cosman is saying: have all the riffs in one project, as opposed to opening up a new project, writing a riff, saving that, and just have like 5,000, not 5,000.
Yeah,
but like
I work on one projects. Timeline.
Yeah.
I should probably do that.
That would make it easy. Yep, that would make it a lot easier.
Question for you, Miles. So an answer on that as well, but also within reason. Can you divide your timeline easily in terms of the tempo? Like, you're like, okay, at this point in the timeline, I want to work on a different piece of music. I can change the tempo and time signature easily right here. And everything after that is a new tempo and time signature, which would be very important in terms of working in the same timeline with many songs, many ideas, as opposed to having a new session for every idea.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
I haven't worked with it for a long time. That's why I ask.
Like, all it is really just like automating a tempo change. So like, theoretically, I could keep a bunch of different stuff. Hi, George. In the same session, and rather than having a bunch of files for different songs, I just never get around to doing it that way. The only time I really use that sort of feature is if I'm like intentionally utilizing it in a song. Right. Like, if I want to do like the sort of cliche mid 2000s slow down tempo for the breakdown. Although there was some band that I heard the other day that had like an incredibly brutal breakdown. I'm pretty sure there was an actual pig at the end of the song too. It was wild, but like, for the most part, the functionality of Reason it's all there.
Yep.
But But yeah, I think that's what I'm going to start doing. Just like keeping a bunch of stuff on one timeline.
Right.
Because otherwise things get lost in the abyss.
Do you keep a library of any kind of ideas? And if you do, how do you do it?
Well, I mean, I have like a whole bunch of files that are just like sessions in Reason of like
all individual sessions.
Yeah, just different ideas, different layers of stuff. And sometimes I'll utilize it in new material. Like I'll probably just end up like sort of augmenting it to fit what I'm doing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's essentially the same thing that I was doing when I had the Boss RC2,
right?
Like the little loop pedal.
Yeah.
Because it had like the 11 different channels on it. So I would just save song ideas on there and then go back to them later on. And sometimes I'd use them. Sometimes I just like revisit them and I'm like, oh, well, what was I even thinking? Delete.
Yeah. Yeah, I use Reaper and I change. It's very, very elastic timeline. And Nick also uses Studio One, which has a very elastic timeline in almost the same way, but just slightly different operation in using it. But it does the same thing. Chris, might be food for thought for you. You can just drop a time signature and tempo marker on the timeline and change it from there on. So you can have one session that is really long, that is a writing session. And maybe that is your final session or not. That part's up to you, but you can have this session that you can use to store all your creativity, so to speak. Nick, your recent project, Wells, essentially grew out of exactly that, did it not?
Yeah, I basically took your idea and just wrote all of these fuzz sludge type of riffs in one project, and then I'm like, okay, here's a song, and I would start a new project with the riffs that I felt sounded that they fit together, or I just took one and built off of that.
Right.
But yeah, all of that stuff is, I even have some songs I'm working on that is still coming from that one session.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I've done it that way.
Right. And Verdict, do you find it particularly beneficial in any way, or particularly just like it's just a thing and like
no, it's not... I think because you and I talk about this, like if you're working on different sounding projects, I think this type of approach can kind of keep you on track.
Right.
You're going to automatically kind of have things sound a way, which is cool.
It's definitely that point for myself, but like I have Vans, Forens, and Wetlands, and that is one of the things that, besides the rules that I outline for each one, that thing allows it to keep on track very easily. Anyone got any eyes on any comments? Grab a few there. I'm going to kind of get queued up for our final round.
So Apoplexy says, dude, I'm still trying to finish songs I started writing 10 years ago and never finished when I stopped playing guitar. Yeah, dude, been there, done that, still doing it. We got terabytes of stuff I've started that I haven't finished, sadly.
That's usually the stuff I just delete because I'm like...
I can't bring myself to deleting it. Like, I got old spinny hard drives that I'm probably never going to look in, but I won't.
Oh, my God.
I don't know what my deal is.
I tried to mount my LaCie Seagate, what is it, like super 10,000 RPM, 15,000 RPM drive, spinny disc. I tried to mount it on the Mac Mini, the M1, and it wouldn't recognize it.
Oh.
There might not be a controller for it.
Interesting.
I'm gonna have to get that Synth Chris guy. Be like, yo, I need a controller written in C#.
Yeah, please. I'll get on that.
Yeah, no big deal. Just like knock it out.
No biggie. Yeah. I'll have it done like tomorrow.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I press show. Oh, okay. Cosman is saying, Bunn, the Reaper marker timeline tip is great. I can go back now and catalog my riffs. Yes. So I have a feeling that this is a case for a lot of software and a lot of people don't really take advantage of it. Nick, I have Studio One, but I haven't really used it in this way. Is there a timeline marker
Yep.
system where you can?
There's markers, and there's even I don't know what they call it. There's just traditional markers, but there's also a thing where, like, if you write a riff and you're like, oh, I want this to be a chorus, and you can highlight it and make it a chorus, and then
Yeah.
you can just move that around, and it moves everything in that chunk, the instruments, the MIDI, everything. It just follows it.
Yeah.
So that's a nice way to like put a song together out of riffs. You know, it's essentially just a slightly more sophisticated way that you make your blocks in Reaper. Just moves everything nice and clean with the click of them. You know,
The functionality of that exists also in Reaper now, especially with their new timeline cutting tools or whatever. The right click.
Yes, that's right.
Thing. Miles, are you able to drop markers and whatnot and kind of organize your timeline and give yourself notes as to what's happening at any point?
Yes. Honestly, I don't know how, but it is possible.
It does exist.
Yeah. I just learned about splitting a MIDI track into separate tracks.
Okay.
Reason, so that I can organize drums by individual tracks.
Right.
And, tweak things that way, which is like, that's like ripple delete for me. I'm just like, oh my God, it's just changed everything. And it's like I've thought back and forth about the idea of switching to a different DAW as far as like maybe going over to Pro Tools just to make it easier for me to send files over to the bassist in my band.
If you work with MIDI, you'll hate your life.
I mean, I don't think there's ever a time where I've done MIDI and I'm like, yes. Like,
but Pro Tools and MIDI are like, painful.
Really?
Yeah. Pro Tools is a fantastic audio DAW, amazing. But when it comes to MIDI support, I
just really like the
throw it out the window.
Available in Reason. I know they have the Reason rack available now as a separate plugin, but that's been my sort of like go-to and a bit of a motivator for me to add like some more different elements to my own music because never had the technology before.
Yeah.
Like this one comment before from Development of a Void, it's like deleting your family.
Yeah, those old riffs. So Yiggity-O brings this up. I think Reason there is a blocks mode where you can write parts then arrange them. Yeah, I remember playing with that a little bit as well.
Okay. Yeah. I need to invest some time in it because like I still really don't know what I'm doing. I just kind of like went as far as like, oh, this makes it record. Great. Okay. Here we go.
Yep.
Quick little tutorial here to Guitar Gear Guru is if you'd like to have a conversation with the folks in the chat, just type the @ symbol first. I'm going to give you an example here and then start typing the, is it going to show? It's not going to show here. Damn.
You do @ and then the name.
Yeah.
And then it should pop up and you can highlight it.
Yeah. Just put the @ symbol and start typing. Yeah. Start typing. I can't do it here because the software we're using doesn't
because
work
Restream.
Yeah, it's great. But any other comments you guys have an eye on? We're gonna get to our final little destination here.
I do real quick. Every time Miles wears this shirt, it's like I'm like low key. I laugh at it multiple times.
Oh, my Master of Puppets.
Yeah, Jim Henson, Master of Puppets. It's so good.
I had my Hall & Oates shirt on yesterday. The Man Eater, with a giant monster that's just got like a man hanging out of her mouth, but it's got the Metallica font.
Oh, really? Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites.
Watch out, boy, she'll chew you up. All right.
It's a Man Eater.
We do Hall & Oates metal covers.
I'll do it.
Deathcore covers. The only way. But last little bit here, and then we're only gonna hang out in the comments in the chat. Point three, question to all three of you. If you could reach for anything you wanted with music, you know, if you're like, everything's on the table, you got all the funding in the world, all the support in the world, you can go, you could just do whatever you want with music. What does that look like? You don't have to say exactly what it is, but like, what would you spend your time? What would a typical day look like? Would it be in the studio? Would it be touring? Would it be starting a record label and supporting other bands? Whoever wants to go first. Yeah.
I mean, for me, I think it would just be to be able to not have the same amount of sort of like anxiety and urgency attached to like, I'm going to go be creative. Like it could just be something that's more fluent and I could just go and do it rather than thinking like, well, I got to get all this other work done first. And then I can do this in the limited amount of time I have left in my day. And as far as like touring, I guess if I could do it kind of like at my own discretion, like on my own terms, and not in the same way that I used to do it, where it was like in essentially a U-Haul van and with no AC, leather seats, and sleeping in that van outside of a super Walmart.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Like
I know it well.
Surviving on Pop-Tarts and CC's all-you-can-eat pizza. It was great.
And Pop's Blue Ribbon.
Well, we sprung for the beer. We got Sam Adams, you know.
Whoa.
Treat.
Wow.
Had to get the summer
Sorry,
air.
Chris. Chris is only 20. He's got a year to go. And he's going to still be drinking milk and OJ combo.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, God.
But yeah, like just overall, you know, just to have it be more of a fluent sort of process.
Yeah.
Something that I don't feel like I need to compact into a short duration of time.
Yeah.
I've been trying to adapt to it, but it's just hard.
Yeah. It seems like, you know, just to kind of like comment on that part, it's like, I feel like you're more likely to kind of end up there the way that you have been doing things, your course of action that you are on. It's more likely that you will end up there in this way, in this course of action, than doing nothing at all and just like hoping for that day. However, there are no guarantees. And I understand the sort of like the hustle of like, I just want to write songs. I don't want to do the social media marketing. I don't want to do the, whatever, the 4 billion other things that come with it. But if I don't do all of those things, then nothing will really be realized. And yeah, there's a lot of anxiety or just stress or weight that comes along with doing that stuff. I think it's going to be interesting to hear from Chris in this regard, because I think your perspective is very different than ours in that regard, because you have your sights set on maybe different things.
I've been trying to get into AI and neural networks. That's something I've wanted to do, combine that with
just
music.
Taking it easy.
This is why I haven't been able to do it. There's a lot of math. I'm not the biggest fan of math, but yeah, besides that, like composing for like maybe a video game or, you know, a movie. My roommate is in virtual tech and design. He's done like shorts and stuff like that. So I would do music for that, but I want to, no offense to him, but I want to do something for like an actual production or,
yeah, for sure,
you know, where I have like a budget to do just crazy things, like, you know, like actually hire an orchestra, like of people who actually play instruments as opposed to using a sample library.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
get a string quartet, you'll be less frustrated.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I won't shoot for a whole orchestra. But just, you know, something like that where I write for something and, you know,
something that is bigger than yourself, but also gives you some really interesting creative parameters to work with.
Yes, exactly. And like I've seen people like Mick Gordon and Celdweller and how they write music for, there's Doom and there was the Killer Instinct, I think. The Killer
Mhm.
Instinct one was interesting because they would like actually take influence from this character is supposed to be primal, whatever, take inspiration from the character, like maybe add a little flamenco here, little elements of that, or maybe add some like woodwind stuff, or I don't know,
Yeah.
just have something to go off of, but also have room to do what I want.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of room in that kind of composition to explore. And you have to sort of solve a lot of problems too, because it's to support something else. And
Yep.
the timelines of it all are kind of messed up. Like cues will just change and stuff like that, like a score. So yeah, very interesting. Nick Hill, if you could pick anything, any outcome, what would it be?
Yeah, so it would kind of go along the lines with what you guys were saying. If I could be enabled to just write music, and ironically, I have always wanted to score movies and film. And I can't say anything about it, but I did have an opportunity to work on scoring a piece of a independent film that in the 11th hour they needed a piece of music and they wanted to see if, I got reached out, if maybe I could write something, and I tried and they liked it, but it's not going to end up in it. But just the opportunity to like try and write something to a scene, like Bunn, like you just said, was like eye-opening and also super like motivating and inspiring. And it's like the closest I've been to, you know, writing the Back to the Future score that I've always wanted to do. Like I've always wanted to score a film. So, if I could spend my whole day writing music and working my way towards that, that'd be.
Is there, just to put the bug in your ear, is there a way that you could maybe write and shoot a micro short with very tight parameters, like not a lot of talent or no talent, like it's more a scene based thing, and then kind of approach the getting your feet wet and getting into
Yeah,
it that way?
it's funny. I have like 5 different little short ideas that I'm thinking about shooting just so I can write music to it.
Yeah.
Um,
And Chris, this is an opportunity for you as well, maybe because I think doing game scores or anything like that, very, very similar to just film scores in general. You're solving the problem different ways,
mhm.
and like loops are really important and all that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, you're creative enough. You work with cameras and whatnot enough. Maybe kind of just like putting a collection of scenes together and like trying to score them and trying to like hit some targets in terms of emotions or whatever the feel of the overall arc of the scenes is or whatever. um, and then sometimes just starting in those directions, you end up landing in really interesting places. Nick, your micro shorts that you have ideas for,
Yeah,
how actionable are they?
they're 100% actionable. It's just a matter of like, look, here's the thing, like, like I said, I have no business into getting into art again as much as I want to. I want to like shoot a proper independent film.
Like a
But
feature.
yeah, but I should start with a short, right? And I
Yeah.
want to do that because I love cinematography and film, and then B, I want to write the music to it. So
Yeah.
it's just a matter of doing it, And I
Yeah.
don't think it's that far off. It's just a matter of like, okay, you know what? Uh, I'm gonna do this now. Um, but there's a lot of me in it, There's a lot of I want to do this because I want to do it because I want to do this because I want to do this. So um, that's a lot on my own shoulders.
Yeah. I find like I have similar motivations as all of you guys in many other creative disciplines. And I ended up, I think, really taking to the YouTube stuff because it encompasses, the moving pictures thing. There's a lot of design, like graphic design element. There is sort of like overall coordination of the development of a scene and story arc and all of that. And then there's the
Yeah, you have
music part,
authority
of
over it.
course. Pardon?
Mm-hmm.
You have authority over it, so like it's gonna be what your vision was.
Yeah,
in the
and
end.
it's really in the end just to exercise those creative muscles in this variety of mediums. The video medium for me really is the only place where I'm like, wow, I can scratch so many itches in one project. Um, but it's a major undertaking,
Yeah.
I don't have a team. None of us have a team. And then to take on something else auxiliary to all of that, let's say Chris, to do some game design stuff, like musical game design, whatever, supporting stuff that way. Well, to make that project a reality, you may have to clear everything else out it's only for a period of time, and it might lead to everything else that you're looking for. But I think that's maybe the biggest difficulty to wrestle with. Like Nick is saying, it's like, I want to do all this stuff. Well, and even just now, Nick, you're doing this Cream City music stuff. I shared the link earlier in there.
Oh, thanks, man.
I wonder if anyone's interested in what we're talking about. Nick has been doing these videos for a local Wisconsin music store, doing guitar demos for them. And because of his experience with YouTube and all this stuff and just doing cool stuff. But there has been a little bit of an impact on your personal creative endeavors, even though this
Certainly.
is creative and awesome.
Yeah, it's been a thorn in my side in the best of way, because of YouTube. It's opened up opportunities, and I'm building relationships with really great people who have offered, like, the store at my disposal. But the flip side is, like, I've made more videos for their channel now than mine, but that's fine. I'm getting compensated for it.
You knew
But
what
there
you
is,
signed up for.
yeah, 100%. And I'm working on ways to, like, show how I'm making these videos that will then end up on my channel, because there's aspects of it that people will find useful. I think I have to be creative about how I can do both. So, where there's a will, there's a way. But it's just, now that I have like a template for those videos I'm making, I can kind of get back into the swing of doing stuff for my YouTube channel. It's just a temporary lull.
It's what do you call it? A crack in the road? A bump?
Yeah.
Just at the little bump.
Yep.
And to go back for what Miles was talking about in terms of like the sort of anxiety of all of the vast variety of things to kind of task yourself with that are not necessarily what you signed. Like, you knew that you signed up for it, but you still wish you didn't have to sign up for it. You're like, I just want to write songs. I don't want to do all these other things. But if I could say anything there, I'm going to probably sound like a music teacher.
It's my job.
You can, the pace that you go at is your pace. It doesn't have to be any other pace than your pace. So if you're ever feeling anxious, the reason I bring it up is because everyone tells me that I need to be a weekly YouTube channel. And in terms of the strategy of doing a YouTube channel, I agree. I'm like, yeah, it would be great if I did a weekly YouTube channel, but
it's a lot.
I can't do things the way that I'm interested currently. I would have to change everything, which I'm interested in exploring.
That's the thing that I see with a lot of channels that bring up their frequency as far as what they're doing, where like they have to reformat everything in order to realistically fit within the time confinements of a week's time. And it's hard. it's
Yeah.
hard to not have any sort of fluctuation in terms of the quality of what you're putting out.
I did it for a
And
couple months, and all the videos were pretty bad.
yeah, I mean, we talked about this, I think, last week or the week before, where I started doing like a weekly music theory thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I made them real basic videos. They were short, straight to the point, and I'm like, this is fine. This is gonna be great. And then like just no one watched them, so I'm like,
Crickets.
all right, well, I'm not gonna run myself into the ground for something that no one's gonna watch.
Yeah. But yeah, I think your pace that affords you work that you're happy with, I think is probably the most important thing. Do you not see?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Like with my band's last record,
Yeah.
I kind of took I guess, almost like sort of Pink Floyd The Wall approach to it,
Mhm.
where I was treating that album as though there was going to be a visual element attached to it. I even wrote kind of like a little bit of a screenplay, but that's probably never going to go anywhere. But like having the experience of writing this entire album that is this sort of like continual cohesive thing that has a storyline going on throughout it with multiple characters and all this stuff. It was a lot. Like I think I broke my brain, honestly, because it was just a lot of stuff. And we did a couple music videos within that time frame as well. And even that, like a lot of thought goes into that, and a lot of just like moving parts involved in the whole thing itself.
And you
And
gas out, and you need to recharge, because if you just keep going, there might be greater damage done than good.
well, I think the main thing was that like it was limitations on what I was allowed to do and limitations on what was available to be done. Because
Right.
Conceptually, I'm usually the guy that's told like, no, you can't do that. But then it was also like actors and actresses weren't available at the time. Oh, I didn't bring the other camera for my battery. And it's like, we only have Sunday to do this. We have to get it done today. And things like that, where if I didn't have to worry about those factors, I
Right.
think I'd be more inclined to really go after it.
Yeah. 100%. Something like in all of that to consider in terms of like what Chris and Nick are talking about, doing scores. I know some people who that's what they do for a living. They score films, variety. One person does mostly documentaries. The other person does features. And it's a pretty expansive thing. It requires all of yourself going into it. The thing that you talk about, Miles, in terms of just a lot of thought, a lot like going really long into it that way. There's a lot of things to consider that we're not used to considering in terms of just doing like, I'm going to write up 3-chord song, 4-chord song right now.
You got to think about dynamics and
There's
timing with the visual.
so much more to it. Yeah. Especially
like I did
games.
music for a Ford commercial once.
Yeah.
That was easy.
Yeah.
You had to have a 30-second spot and a 60-second spot.
And the 30-second spot in my life is a new thing. The 30-second spot didn't exist for the longest time.
Really?
Yeah. 30-second spot is like pretty new in history. Like, I don't know,
the cool thing about
late 80s.
writing like sort of like score-esque stuff, like at least writing for strings, is that it allows you the ability to kind of be more flexible. You don't have the same limitations as you would with the guitar in terms of like a chord structure. Like you can more easily integrate inversions of stuff.
Right.
And I'd say dealing with like real life people is a lot better when it comes to dynamics, because you can have crescendos and all this other stuff. And like I wrote a couple string quartets in college, and I was working with Finale. I was the only one in my department using Finale when everyone else was like, you should be using Sibelius. And, you know, like it was freeing in a way, because like you could go in with a basic concept of what you want to do, but then you could also really like develop those ideas. And I think even that is like a great means of inspiration as well, just creatively, to like write for a different instrument.
Right. That is
Mhm.
not your instrument at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Chris, you it sounds like in terms of your path story, you started with keyboards. Your first band was, you were a keyboard guy, and you ended up on the guitar because your brother had a guitar. But guitar is sort of, I guess, now the anchor, the central part of what you're doing, and synth is a really big part of that. And I think you're getting closer and closer to like your own integration of those things, especially with these last two tracks that came out yesterday. Is like, how do you think about that in terms of, like, I guess synth is your instrument, but it seems like guitar is your instrument, like your primary instrument. How do you think about synths? And is it a little bit of an outside instrument to you in the way that you're using it? Because to me, it's sort of the outside instrument for that kind of music. But I'm curious how you think about it. Is it a super fresh take for you? You've been doing it for a while, but or I don't know. What can you say about that?
Well, I do feel obligated to have synths because it's in the
You're
name
Synth
of this.
Chris.
I was gonna say, you're
that's
gonna change
my
your name.
And at this point, if I don't feel like changing the name, but I don't think the synth part is like the main focus of what I'm going for. That being, like, there are some songs that are just only synths, no guitars, that I have, maybe like 4, but it seems to be mostly guitar. But I also wouldn't consider myself like a guitarist because, like, or I don't practice a lot.
You're a
I
guitar
time
player.
stretch a lot of my riffs. I
Yeah.
I do the cheats. I do
Yeah.
whatever. But
I promise you're in great company. Don't worry.
yeah, I don't know. I know I want to do metal, and I know that a lot of the metal that I listen to that incorporates synths, like the Browning or the Algorithm, probably other bands that I can't remember. It just sounds good. It just sounds really good when they can do it correctly. Mick Gordon, that's another one.
Yeah.
He's insane. Everyone loves him. Well, a lot of people love him.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe synths aren't my main thing, but I like them, so I want to have them like all the time.
Yeah. I think Nick, you you don't use a ton of synths in your music, but you do sometimes. But I think you use effects in a similar way to what Miles is talking about, in terms of almost approaching the use of effects as a different instrument. That's what it seems like when you use the textures and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, are you thinking in terms of guitars when you're doing that stuff? Or are you just thinking in terms of space and texture and all that?
Yeah, it could be another instrument very easily, and I do have a lot of stuff that I've written that doesn't have any guitar on it,
Right.
believe it or not. There's string stuff, there's tons of piano stuff. I've been getting really into like writing background, like lo-fi hip hop type stuff, which is like,
I like that stuff. The last stuff that I heard.
yeah, it's nice, and I think someone touched on it, like, because it's not typically what I would be writing. That being said, I have always loved like the addition of strings or synths in with the guitar. I have just historically not been very good at it, so I don't do it a ton. But I think from that comes like, I mean, it's a combination of like wanting there to be layers on layers on layers. I like layering guitars, so I'll have a riff, but then it's like there's 3 riffs in, and then there's melodies and real washy guitars on top of it. And that's a combination of like liking that kind of like orchestration of guitar, and also the first big metal I got into was Scandinavian metal, where they do a lot of
Right.
harmonies and layers.
Yeah.
So it's just part of my musical DNA at this point.
It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
Electric Meat Puppet. Been chirping away
Ooh.
at an old-timey horror radio play with around sound
Sick.
effects and stuff. Very time-consuming. Yeah, of course. But
That's awesome.
Yeah,
fun.
that sounds amazing.
Very different than just playing guitar riffs.
I would assume so.
Some what do they call it? Foley?
Foley. Yeah.
When
sound
you're
effects.
like,
Yeah.
yep. That's sick, man.
Yeah, Foley Studio. I've only been in Foley Studio once. It was so dirty. I was just like, how do you? Because they
need that dirt,
There's
right?
just so much dust everywhere. Yeah, and it's kind of hard to clean like a whole bunch of audio equipment. Like they can vacuum, but like there was a surprising amount of dust on the console. Like I was like, wow, this place is so
Can't believe
dusty.
it.
Yeah, I don't know if they're all like that, but this
just that place.
And comments. Electro.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I'll let you get this one.
Would like to see do his cartoon sketch.
Development of a Void.
Oh, okay.
Do his cartoon sketch to a music video. That would be fun.
Yeah. Because his
dude.
wrestling video.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Yeah. That's how did you do that? Development of a Void. Like it seemed like.
I was very interested in that process as well. Yeah, Cosman, I don't know if I'm going to totally derail his comment, but says, need to go back and try Jam Origin MIDI 2 guitar, a VST that does multi-note guitar to MIDI with audio. So like I know Fishman made this thing where you kind of like, it's a pickup you put under your strings and you mount it on your guitar and it turns your guitar into a MIDI controller. And I've always wanted it for the thing we're talking about. Like you can play chords and then it's like, I write stuff on a piano / MIDI controller, if you will, but I don't really know what I'm doing, so it takes me a little bit longer. Where if I could just play it on a guitar, give me a break,
There's
man.
also that MIDI guitar. I forget the name of the company. It's like Jam something.
Jam Stick?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I thought about getting one because they like sent me an email and they're like, "Hey, we make lefty ones now," and I'm like, do you make free ones? But the Fishman pickup, the guitar player in my band, he's got one on one of his guitars, and you can assign different things for each string, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So like realistically, you could do like drums, but that's terrible.
That's true.
So it's definitely a cool approach. I like the idea of having a MIDI stringed instrument, but it has to be able to track well as far as like the functionality
the
of
syntax.
a guitar. Yeah.
The Alan Holdsworth. Which was what, a Casio instrument, I think?
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a video of that guy,
It's a guitar.
Nieto. He's got one that he does a couple of videos with.
Yeah.
And it's just like ridiculous. I want it. I need it.
Nylon strings, they're all the same diameter. It's crazy.
Yes, I absolutely need it.
Synth Chris, do you use an actual synth? I'm actually we never actually covered that. Ever.
Yeah.
Show us your synth.
Or is it all MIDI?
Here's the thing. I used to have a synth.
The truth comes out.
For that band that we wrote intro song and then it broke up. I bought an Arturia Mini Brute and it was great.
Yeah.
I loved it. But I couldn't get any good tones out of it. Not fault of the instrument itself. I just wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I've sold it. So now I'm synthless Chris and
Mouse, Mr. Mouse.
Yeah, it's all mouse, and maybe I should put an asterisk next to the synth, but I plan on getting like I don't know, it's like a semi-modular like synth or maybe a MIDI controller, just something.
Yeah.
I think that would.
It makes the story more interesting. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll redeem myself eventually. It'll be good.
But gang, we're 25 minutes
Yeah,
over here.
We're over.
Oh,
Not
damn.
that it's a huge problem.
No,
or
yeah,
anything,
no, it's good times.
But I'm ready to shut her down.
Yeah,
It was great. It was a great
yeah,
chat. I feel
good
like I
hangs for
actually
sure.
learned a lot today. Anything anyone want to finish off on? Could be like check out my new album in stores Tuesday. Could be just a good night and thanks. Could be whatever you want.
I don't know. I think
I'll have new music eventually.
yeah.
I'll let you
I
guys
think we
know.
all kind of tried to drive the point home that if there's something you want to do, just fucking do it. Try it. Fit it in where you can, if that's how it has to work.
Mhm.
But
Gotta make
just
that
keep
time.
doing it. Yep.
Yeah.
You do. You have to make the time. Yep.
But your soul might be richer for it. Mr. Synth Chris, thanks for hanging out with us. We'd like to have you on again at some point.
Yeah, man.
If you're
I
interested.
appreciate it. Yeah. I kept forgetting that I was on the podcast. I was listening to you guys. But yeah, I'd like to be on again.
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm on this. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's
Awesome.
interesting with the four-way chat too, or even a three-way chat is it's a lot
like the
more of a
Brady Bunch.
conversation.
Yeah.
It's nice getting perspectives too, different perspectives.
Yeah, I love the comparisons of like kind of where people are at, where they coalesce and where they diverge. Very cool. Thanks a lot, Chris. Check out Chris's stuff. I'm going to drop that in there one more time.
Thank you, sir.
This is his. I'm just going to drop your Bandcamp link in there because that's the most recent thing. Actually, maybe I'll do. That's his latest release. Came out yesterday night. Juneteenth is coming up on June 19th, which is Bandcamp's. Bandcamp will be donating all of their portion of the revenue to everything that we buy on Bandcamp on June 19th to humanitarian efforts, to making the world a better place. So if you're interested in that and you want to grab Chris's thing and help the world, you can do it that way. And if you're just really selfish and you're like, I only want to help Chris, you can do it this way. You can go there right now.
I like Chris, but I hate everyone else.
I hate the world. You can do that. The links to everything that Miles is doing, everything that Nick is doing, and everything that I'm doing are in the actual description. I believe Chris's information is in the description of the video as well. This is Chris's YouTube channel. I'm focusing on that in the chat here because this is all new. And recent video just went up all about numbers. You're expanding on the numbers surrounding musical things that a lot of people trip up on. I kind of did one and you did one that expanded on that. I think it's incredibly helpful and a great video. I love your video style.
Thank you.
By the way, speaking into the H4. Is it an H4, the recorder? Or is it
No,
just it's just the mic. It's
the mic.
so big, it looks like a. But you're just like, so this is what's going on. Then you cut away and all that kind of stuff. It's great.
Thank you.
But Chris, was great having you on. Miles, always good to see you, handsome man.
Always a pleasure.
And Nick Hill,
That's me.
the man of
Present.
the hour and the man with all of the power.
Yeah.
And Nick
If
Hill,
only.
do you have a live stream coming up this Saturday night? Maybe not.
Yeah, the goal. Nope. Yep, we're going live.
Okay.
The reason why I missed last week was just because I was
You're away.
in another state.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
Yep.
But we're going to shut her down. I just want to take a second to say thank you to everyone with us over at Patreon. It is these people that make it all happen here. Without them, we would not be able to accommodate all these technical, brilliant marvels of modern technology.
Yes, this wonderful software. That's totally worth
few problems.
money.
We should maybe think about trying something else. If there is an
we
option.
really should.
Yeah,
We really
it's
should.
just there's not a lot of options.
No, there's not.
Yeah. Anyway, have a good night, everyone. Any final hellos, goodbyes, thank yous?
Go buy Synth Chris's music.
Yeah.
We gotta
Right
support
now.
each other, y'all.
Yeah.
Do
Do
it
it.
right now.
I won't
right now.
stop you. Yeah.
Good night, everybody.